got a different flavor this time. Everybody on their feet. Hola, amigo. Qué bueno. Chica. Oye. Hey, guys. Everybody's on their feet. Feeling like a champion? Down 30? All right. Let's get a little energy going. Hi, the tiger. Turn to your neighbor and say hi, the tiger. Woo-hoo! All right. Good job. Good job. That was different. Give yourself a round of applause. If you can see Tamara's face right now. She's blushing. But that was good. I like that. We may have to try that one another time. All right, welcome everybody. So, we got some guests in the house. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Yachter. I want to thank you for coming. Kevin, it's good to see you, buddy. Welcome everyone. How many of y'all been to a workshop before? Raise your hands. Good. Keep your hand if you've been 3, 4, or 5 workshops. And 10 workshops, 15 workshops, 20 workshops, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. Okay, there we go. All right, give yourself a round of applause. Thank you for being here, all of you. So we're going to have some fun tonight because we have an old saying here. When you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start what? Dying. So we're all here to learn. I've been preparing for this workshop for quite a while here, Edna. And I will have you know that you picked a good night to come. Yes. So there's a lot of new research, a lot of new things that have been out in development, and I know that everybody here has a medical doctor that takes care of them, and I can tell you that in all likelihood, they are not talking to you about what you're going to learn tonight. So you're going to be on the cutting edge. You're going to be way out in front of the game. So I'm really excited to bring this to you and share this with you, and hopefully you'll know what to do with it from there. So next month we have cancer prevention. This one is Heart Smart Nutrition. We got cancer prevention. We're coming into our fall festivities here. These are the big ones, the big diseases that really strike at most every home at some point in time. Raise your hand if you know somebody who has cancer, had cancer, family member, friend. It's like everyone, you know. So that's why this is important, and just as important as being here tonight. Heart disease and cancer are the two leading disease killers. The number one disease killer is what you're here for tonight, to either get help with or prevent. The number one disease killer for both men and women. One death every 37 seconds, if you can imagine that. So pretty important stuff, right? So I want to just dive right into this so that you can really get a feel for what the most important things to be looking at on your dashboard are. How many of you know that it's important to know what your cholesterol is? How many of you know it's important to know what your blood pressure is? And your doctors have all talked to you about this stuff, but what if I told you I have something even more important that can predict disease and early death, even more important than those things? Would you be interested in learning what that is and getting a handle on that before it rears its ugly head? Say yes? Yes. Yes? Okay, so we're all on the same page. What do you see there besides disgusting, ugly toes? What do you see there? It's gout. So you guys know what gout is, right? Everybody's kind of familiar with that. Uric acid. It's what happens when we eat bad things and we get inflammation in the joints. It's a form of arthritis. And when you go for a blood test every year, your doctor's looking at uric acid. And as long as your uric acid is okay, well, you got a clean bill there. You don't have to worry about it. Even if your uric acid is high and you don't have gout, they're not going to make a big deal out of it. But I'm here to tell you tonight that what I've learned and what you're about to learn is, nothing could be further from the truth. Our concern now, as far as our uric acid, couldn't be more important than it is right now. Because all the things that you've learned up to this point pale in comparison to what you're going to learn about uric acid tonight and how it literally drives and predicts every disease that you've been learning about how to prevent. So put your seatbelts on because it's about to get real here. from the journal Clinical Hypertension in 2020. Just 2 years ago, they published this in a medical journal, Uric Acid and Cardiometabolic Diseases. What they're finding is that study after study after study recently now shows that uric acid is an independent risk factor for what? Predicting disease development, along with other risk factors. And this is what uric acid causes. Heart attack, causes heart failure, causes coronary artery disease, atrial fibrillation, chronic kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and what? Hypertension, high blood pressure. You mean hypertension, it's not just from eating a lot of salt? You mean it's not just from my bad diet? No, uric acid could be the cause of that. Uric acid could very well be the cause of a lot of the diseases that we suffer from and we're medicated for and we're being treated for as the causative factor, which is never being diagnosed properly. Are you getting that? So here's one from the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is back in 2008. They published this, finding that the uric acid levels in obese adolescents who'd been diagnosed with hypertension, they took this, a study that was done with a doctor at the University of Florida who really was picking up on the tales of research that's been going on for the last 100 years that nobody's paying attention to. And what he did was, using a drug, he raised uric acid in laboratory animals, in mice. And he found that when using a drug, they raised the uric acid levels, they found all the mice developed high blood pressure and kidney disease. And that's what they died from. So then he hypothesized, well, if we can give them a drug to take uric acid down, maybe it'll take their blood pressure down. So he did his own independent study, the University of Florida, and this is what he did. He took adolescents who had high blood pressure. 90% of them had elevated what? Uric acid. So he gave them a drug that actually targets uric acid to lower. It's called allopurinol. And that's what he did. He gave them this drug, and the drug restored the blood pressure to normal in 85% of the adolescents. He didn't give them a drug, a hypertension drug. He didn't give them a drug to lower blood pressure. Did you get that? He gave them a drug to lower what? Uric acid. And as a result of that, their blood pressure went down. So these results have been replicated many, many times in different studies all over the world, and not just with adolescents, but with adults as well. Here's another study from Japan just a couple of years ago, see, 2020, more than 500,000 people between the ages of 40 and 74. And what they found is that even with minimal rises in uric acid, you're increasing your risk of what? Premature death. The higher your uric acid goes, the earlier your death creeps up on you. It speeds up your death. It speeds up mortality. And this is what they're showing, that it shortens life expectancy. You have a 40% increase in the risk of death from cardiovascular disease, 35% increase in the risk of death from stroke. Even if you don't have high blood pressure or diabetes or obesity, asymptomatic uricemia. What is that? Asymptomatic uricemia. It means that you have high uric acid, elevated uric acid, but you don't have high blood pressure. But you're not obese, you don't have type 2 diabetes, you don't have kidney problems. You don't have any sort of health issues, but your uric acid is running high. What does it say? What does it say? High uric acid can predict the development of all of these chronic diseases. And what they're showing is that normally when you go for a blood test every year, they say, well, as long as it's not over 7, you're okay. But now what we're finding is that most doctors, even if they run your blood and it's way over 7, as long as you don't have gout, they say it's what? Okay. Is that what the research is showing? No. It shows that trouble is imminent. And we really need to pay attention to what this level is showing, because for every point, you see it's supposed to be 7, it's supposed to be really below 7, it's supposed to be below 5.5 or so, but for every point that it goes over 7, you're correspondingly increasing your risk of mortality by, on average, about 10 or 12%. Every point that it goes up. So this is what the research is showing. This is very recent. This is coming out now, and I wonder who's paying attention to it. Besides all that you've learned about so far, there's also something called metabolic disease, which causes diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's a process by which your body stores fat. Now, up until this point, all these workshops you've been coming to, what do we say, Carlos? You want to lose weight, you lay off the what? The carbs, right? Everybody knows that. Stop eating the carbs. Pasta, rice, breads, potatoes, all that stuff. Stop eating that. You got to bring your blood sugar down. But here's the deal. When it comes to uric acid, one of the main culprits is something called fructose. Fructose. What? Fruit? Holy smokes. Wait a minute. Hold on. Don't lose your shirt. Okay? We know that fruit is good for us. It's filled with antioxidants and vitamins and things like that. But probably a couple decades ago, we had something come onto the scene called high fructose corn syrup, right? And corn syrup. And all this concentrated fructose. Now, we know that when people drink lots of alcohol, what do we see them get right here? Get a gut. Now, where is that from? It's how the liver processes alcohol, which is the same way that liver processes fructose. And what it does is fructose and alcohol do the same thing. They raise uric acid. And when uric acid goes up, the fat switch turns on. So your body starts storing fat. And it starts making fat in your bloodstream, which turns into triglycerides. Is this making sense, guys? So this uric acid, big problem. What's driving the uric acid, they found one of the main things, and this is the main discussion that I want to have with you guys tonight. It's not so much the fruit, but it's the concentration that we're getting. That's making its way into our pantry and the foods, the salad dressings and the fruit juices. And, if you look on the labels, you're going to see that there's corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup on many things that you wouldn't suspect. Now, as this starts to increase in our daily intake, we start to experience a problem. How many of you guys have ever freshly squeezed orange juice? How many oranges do you have to squeeze to get like a nice tall glass of orange juice? What's that? 5 or 6. Okay. So what are you removing from the equation when all you're having is the juice? You're removing the fiber, right? And that fiber is what's designed to slow down the absorption of the sugar into your bloodstream. Now, unlike glucose, glucose doesn't require the liver. Glucose just goes right into the cells, right? But fructose is a little bit different. Fructose has to go to your liver, and this is where it wreaks havoc. And this is where the liver starts to turn on the fat switch, and this is why we can have skinny people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We can have overweight people, we call them skinny fat people, because they're living on soda pops and juices and junk food, but they're developing these cardiometabolic diseases. Their metabolism, all the metabolic functions are going haywire because of the damage that's starting in the liver, and it affects the heart. It increases your blood pressure. These are, again, you're looking at people that are not overweight, and they're very unhealthy. And what does it point back to? Many times, high what? Uric acid. So everybody got the point? Uric acid comes from 3 different sources: fructose, alcohol, and purines. Certain foods are high in purines, and these are just the elements that are given off when there's breakdown from DNA and RNA, but different meats and fishes and things like that. Some foods are higher in purines than others, but those are the things that will significantly raise uric acid levels. We said fructose generates uric acid as what metabolizes it? The liver, right? So the liver has to metabolize that fructose. And that's what we know as fructose being a causative factor in terms of hoarding fat, raising blood sugar, and blood pressure. Is everybody with me so far? Does everybody understand now how this has to do with heart smart, getting heart healthy? So this is something that we need to start paying attention to when you have your blood tested on an annual basis, right? So in your handout, you have these risk factors which could possibly be a factor for elevating uric acid. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's for you to look at. It's for you to look at. And for some of you, you may be wondering, well, what can I do to lower uric acid? Are there certain supplements or certain foods or a certain nutritional strategy I should be to be paying attention to this? And the answer may or may not be yes, because you don't know if you have elevated uric acid until you what? Until you look at what your blood looks like. Now, if you have high uric acid, if your uric acid is elevated, and that's the reason why you're still on medication for high blood pressure or diabetes or cholesterol, after all you're doing with your nutrition, that may be the missing link, right? That may be the one factor. And my goodness, if we could track that and we can nail that, that could be a breakthrough for you. So I think this is significant. This could be profound for many of us here because I've been working with many of you for a long time, and I know that you still want to reduce and get off these medications. When it comes to your blood sugar and your blood pressure and all that, this is something that needs to be checked. So let's do some of these risk factors. Yeah, Drew?
What's the number that you're trying to hit? 5?
Yes, you're getting close. We're one step. We're just a couple of slides. Hold that thought. Don't change the station. All right. So I'm gonna temporarily close the curtain on the uric acid part, and I'm gonna revisit it in a couple of minutes here, as we can start to put the rubber to the road. But I wanted to open that up so you understand moving forward. It's not just looking at your sugar and your blood pressure and your cholesterol. We want to get to the cause. Say that word. Cause, the source and the root of what's driving your triglycerides, what's driving the weight gain, what's driving the blood sugar, what's driving the high blood pressure. And this is an overlooked cause. Can everybody see how important this is? So this is really important. So moving on to other myth busters, I want to talk to you about cholesterol, because sometimes you go to the doctor and this is what he says to you. They found a bunch of these pills clogging your arteries. They're cholesterol pills. Cholesterol pills can clog your arteries? Well, maybe not like that, but in another way. You're going to learn. Cholesterol pills will actually cause heart problems as opposed to preventing them. What? Okay, here goes Dr. Yachter. He's on his rant now. In the past 30 years, this one cardiologist has recently been quoted saying, in the last 30 years, there's been more than 44 randomized controlled studies that reveal what? No cardiovascular mortality benefit from, watch this, diet or various drug trials from lowering cholesterol. So what he's saying is that if you take your cholesterol down with diet or drugs, there is no improvement in life expectancy. I'm going to let that settle in there for a minute. You got that? That's coming from a cardiologist. And we're going to build on that. So what you're going to learn here is that, number one, lowering cholesterol to very low levels does not reduce your risk of heart disease. You want to take your cholesterol down? Fine. It's not going to improve your risk, reduce your risk of heart disease. Number two, I'm going to show you other studies that show that if you do, you're increasing your risk of numerous other health problems and other diseases that you're not going to be happy about. So track with me here. Is cholesterol bad or is it good? You're so brainwashed. We are so brainwashed that if I said HDL, immediately your answer would be good. And if I say HDL, your answer would be bad. LDL is bad, right? So here's the deal. It's not cholesterol. They're proteins. They're proteins that actually carry cholesterol. And we've just been so conditioned to this thing. Cholesterol is a critical brain nutrient. It's a critical brain nutrient and antioxidant that your neurons depend on. The function of all neurons. Every cell membrane in your brain and every part of your body is made up of what? Cholesterol, fat. And you try to wipe that out, bad things are going to happen. Neurons rely on the delivery of cholesterol from the bloodstream via a specific protein carrier, LDL, low density lipoprotein. That's what that is. So a protein is what's carrying the cholesterol, this life-giving nutrient, to the neurons to make them function. How many of you guys would agree neurons in your brain functioning normally is a good idea? Okay, just checking. Yeah. So there's nothing bad about LDL. The fundamental role of LDL is to capture the cholesterol, transport it to the neuron where it performs critically important functions. So here's my question. What happens to your brain as a result of lowering your cholesterol? Yeah, and here are some studies to prove that and back that up. Framingham followed, starting one of the largest heart trial studies ever. It started in the 1940s, then they had multiple follow-ups. This is one from same study that originated, followed up in 2005, Boston University, testing cholesterol and cognitive performance. This is 789 men, 1,105 women. They perform these tests every 4 to 6 years, evaluating memory, learning, concentration, attention, abstract reasoning, and organizational abilities, all of which are compromised on Alzheimer's patients. Jim, right? You remember that, right? Good. People at the highest cholesterols scored higher on cognitive tests than lower levels. So the people at the higher cholesterol levels, they did better on all of the cognitive tests. The people with the lower cholesterols did what? Not as well. Yeah. February 2012, the FDA released a statement 10 years ago showing that statin drugs could cause cognitive side effects, such as memory lapses and confusion. So the correlation, the connection has been there for a long, long time. And it's time for people to wake up and see how vitally important this is before it's too late. It's like going down the river, which is heading to Niagara Falls, but you don't have any paddles in the water. You don't hear the roar of the falls. By the time you hear the roar of the falls, it's what? It's too late. Don't let it be too late. Listen, it's there. Parkinson's disease. Researchers in the Netherlands demonstrated that higher blood levels of cholesterol associated with a significant decrease of Parkinson's disease. This is a journal of epidemiology. It's a medical journal. People with the lowest LDL were at increased risk for Parkinson's by approximately 350%. Medical journals. What is this saying to us? That if you blindly outsource this decision to people who we think are managing our health or are responsible for managing our health, we could be making a fatal mistake. Who's in charge of your health? You are. I am. We're in charge of, we're all responsible each other to ourselves to making these decisions. That's why you're here, to get the information so you can make an intelligent decision. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, I'm sharing it from medical journals, is so that you can have an intelligent conversation with your doctor. If you are on cholesterol medication, or at any point they want to put you on cholesterol medication, what does this information do for you, Maria? It gives you boldness, right? It gives you courage to ask intelligent questions and make a decision that could be the difference between life and death. Are you not worth that? Yes.
I'm your doctor, wrote on my record. She still refuses statin drugs.
She still refuses statin drugs. And Patricia's been to at least 6 workshops. I know that. I mean, she's continuing to learn, and each time it gets easier, right? She knew it, and now it's just affirmed. It just makes it that much easier. So that's why I encourage you to keep coming to the workshops. Thank you for, that's encouraging for other people to hear that, because almost every one of you will be having this conversation with your doctor. If you're not already on cholesterol meds, this is the standard of care. And your doctors may or may not be up on this research, but it doesn't matter, because if they go against the grain, they don't want to deal with those problems. They don't want to deal with that, their licensure and all that stuff. And most of them don't have private practices. They work in group practices, and they're subject to the rules and the protocols there. And in the end, it doesn't make a difference to them. It makes a difference to you and I, though. So that's why it's important that you're owning what you're learning right now. Statin medications increase the risk of death. American Journal of Cardiology. So here it is, black and white. Researchers followed 300 adults diagnosed with heart failure for 3.7 years up to 11.5 years. In the end, here's what they found. Those who were taking statin drugs and had the lowest LDL were found to have the highest rates of mortality. They died the earliest. The ones who had the lowest cholesterol. Conversely, people with higher levels of cholesterol had a lower risk of death. So, I still get the question, Doc, I got it now. I understand. This is not good. I don't want the cholesterol. I don't want the medications. I don't want the statins. So what can I take to lower my cholesterol naturally? So what's wrong with that question? You don't want to lower it. You don't want to lower it. My doctor said my cholesterol, he doesn't like my cholesterol. It's 280, it's 300, it's 370. So what am I supposed to do? Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Because if your cholesterol is high, what you're going to learn right now is that's not the problem. There's something else that's making your body make the cholesterol high. And if you find and correct the cause of that, you're going to leave the cholesterol alone. Leave it where it's at, because you're going to find that it doesn't matter if your cholesterol is high or low, it's not going to change your risk of heart disease. There is one thing that does. Here's more research before we move on. Low cholesterol increases your risk of cancer. 12,500 men and women. The study found that men with the lowest cholesterol levels were the most likely to get cancer. Another long-term study shows that women on cholesterol medication for 10 years or more doubles your risk of breast cancer. So more reasons to avoid cholesterol drugs, statins. They deplete your body of CoQ10. This is a necessary molecule which generates energy in every cell in your body. In particular, your heart, which is really important, because if you're taking a statin, it's stripping that CoQ10, not just out of your heart muscle, but every muscle in your body. And this is why people, Chris, get pains, right? Pains in their joints, pains in their necks, pains all over their body. It's one of the main symptoms, because it's depleting the CoQ10. It also inhibits the production of K2, which protects your arteries from what? Calcification? Would that have anything to do with hardening of the arteries? Really? So is what this saying that cholesterol medications can actually cause hardening of the arteries? Can cause heart disease? You got it. That's right. Diabetes, recent studies show that statins, what's that say? Triple your risk of type 2 diabetes if you take it for more than 2 years. So you have to ask yourself, are the side effects of the drugs worse than the disease itself? And here we are once again asking the same question. So back to the concern. How high is dangerously high cholesterol? How high is high? Well, here's a study from Journal of the American Medical Association. 1,000 people. At the end of the study, they found people with low total cholesterol have just as many heart attacks as those with high cholesterol. So if you have a 300 cholesterol or a 400 cholesterol, what difference does it make? It's not increasing your risk of a heart attack any more than if your cholesterol was under 200. You got that? Because that's not the imminent factor which is going to determine your risk of a heart attack, myocardial infarction, or a heart episode. Here's what it is. What do you look for in your blood test? If your cholesterol is running high, your doctor doesn't like it, wants to put you on Lipitor, you say, gee, doc, well, what about my C-reactive protein? C-reactive protein? What is that? That's your inflammation marker. Why is it important to look for that? Because the New England Journal of Medicine showed this back in 2005, almost 20 years ago. The study concluded that inflammation is an independent risk factor for heart disease that is a much stronger indicator than any measure of cholesterol. They found that the patients with low CRP had fewer heart attacks no matter what their LDL was. And that the patients who had the high CRP had more heart attacks. Again, independent. So what's the thing that we want to look for? What's more important, the cholesterol number or the C-reactive protein number? Okay. So this is what you do. When your doctor says, I don't like the way your cholesterol looks, you say, okay, thank you, doc, but what does my C-reactive protein look like? And most of the time, you're not getting a C-reactive protein test. You know why? They're not going to look at it unless you've had a heart attack. It's a primary indicator of inflammation, which is not only useful for heart disease, but also diabetes, Alzheimer's, arthritis. I mean, it's inflammation. And your immune system, by the way, which is the reason why we do this as a standard part of everyone's maintenance plan. If you're a maintenance patient in my office, you're getting a finger prick blood test where we take your vitamin D and your C-reactive protein every year, once a year, because we know you're going to get a hard time from your doctor to get this. It's vitally important. So we want to look and see where that is. Now, you tell me, if your cholesterol is running like 300 or 400, but your C-reactive protein is in normal range, what are your thoughts? You're good. And if your doctor wants to gang up on you, you have the evidence, you have everything you need, again, scientifically supported in their own medical journals to have peace of mind with that. Okay. Now, if your cholesterol is 300 or 400 and your CRP is off the charts, do you have something to be concerned about? Yes, you do. You don't do it to lower, you don't go after lowering your cholesterol, you go after what? Lowering the inflammation. And there's lots that you can do with that in terms of your nutrition and supplements and things like that. So we're all tracking, we're all on the same page. But there's one other thing that is even more important than inflammation. This is something that actually stokes inflammation. It spreads inflammation. And it's called what? Uric acid. Here we are again. High uric acid amplifies inflammation. And it found that increases in uric acid directly predicts increases in C-reactive protein. Whoa! How about that? How important is inflammation? But what are these studies showing? Uric acid is even more important in predicting inflammation. We found that inflammation is the leading predictor for a heart attack or heart disease. But what's the leading predictor for the leading predictor? Uric acid. Whoa! Oh! Stop the show. 1,000 high-risk patients in a German study all had elevated uric acid, and all of whom had stable coronary artery disease. In other words, it was stable, it was no longer active, they got it under control. And they watched these people, and they found that this was a better predictor. Uric acid was a better predictor of future adverse cardiovascular disease events, more so than CRP or interleukin-6. Nobody's looking at this, guys. This is the most important thing that you can be looking at right now if you have not gotten to the place where you feel like you should be with your health. Is everybody with me right now? Does that make sense? Okay. So how do you know your numbers, Drew? There you go. You can test your uric acid at home. You can buy a kit. You can do it by yourself. When you test it, the best time to do is in the morning. And then we also have a tester here in the office if you don't have one at home. If you'd like to have it done here, we can do it in the office for you. The ideal level should be below 5.5. This is very different from what a standard typical doctor is going to tell you from one of the blood tests they run for you. Remember, they're looking for 7, looking at gout only. And even if you don't have gout and it's over 7, there's going to be no red flag that's waved. But we're telling you, as far as being over 5.5, now you've got all the evidence you need to be concerned with this, because what did you learn tonight? If it's over 5.5, what are you at risk for? Kidney disease, heart disease, cancer, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, almost every degenerative disease known to mankind, let alone what drives it. So really important stuff. So if you wanted to get that tested, just ask Deborah before you leave tonight, and she could get that set up for you. All right, so let's talk about blood pressure, another source of stress for us. Stress causes high blood, can be a cause of high blood pressure, but then when you start checking your high blood pressure all the time, what does it do? It adds more stress, right? And so here's what I want to show you. The Mayo Clinic, if you read on their website, the clinical treatment goal is less than what? If you're an adult, it's less than what? 150 over 90. That may be seeming like a stretch for some of you guys, but again, this comes from the Mayo Clinic. What I want to show you down here is if you look at this chart, this blood pressure chart, when you start at the age of 40 and the 45, 50, 55, 60, what do you notice about the diastolic as you get older? What's normal? For it to go up, right? Normal diastolic blood pressure goes up as you age. All right, so that's why they say 150 over 90. Up to that, you're still good. So if you're getting recommended hypertension medications, blood pressure medications, when your blood pressure is 135 over 90, that's maybe being a little conservative. Even 140 over 90. Now, all you need to do if you're not doing this already is just do some extra exercise. I mean, that's not too far off. Where you're at 145, 140, 90, and you're on blood pressure medication, that's easy to overcome if you just take some time and just get out and shake your tail feather. If you do a little bit of exercise, it helps to get control out of this. We all know this. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. So this is what I wanted to bring to your attention. Because otherwise, if we don't make changes, you're stuck on the meds. And what do you get with the meds? You get side effects. I know very few people who are on blood pressure medication that don't have side effects. That range from shortness of breath, confusion, memory problems, fatigue, vertigo, decreased sex drive, lowered libido, impotence, headache, fatigue, insomnia, digestive issues. So nobody wants that. It's like, but when do we stop and think, well, maybe it could be the medication? Well, it's easy for me because, like, all the new patients that I see, I ask what kind of medications you're on, and as soon as this comes up, I look back to some of the symptoms that they were telling me about, and sure enough, the wires are always connected. They're always connected. Yep. So you know that in the last few years they've recalled many different blood pressure medications, which have carcinogens in them, and they pulled them off the market. And many of you were here in the workshop when I announced it, and you went home and your doctor said, "Yeah, we've been trying to get in touch with you. We know it was recalled," and you're like, "Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you for your concern." That's why it's important that you're here. Many of you, what you're learning now, you're way ahead of what your doctors know, or they're aware of, or what they're going to be doing, assimilating in their clinical work. So you have to be on top of this stuff. So this is old news. All right. So how many of you getting something good so far? So am I the only one having fun? Okay, good. All right, so I want to recognize some folks here. I want to call up my dynamic staff. Let's call up Deborah and Tamara, and for those of you guys who haven't met, Dr. Michelle. I'm gonna have you come on up. Everybody, give them a round of applause. They are awesome, and you know I couldn't do this without them. So I want to recognize some special people here who have done a wonderful job, fantastic job with their care. Just a couple of categories I want to recognize for being stellar. You know, this is a team effort when I work with patients, and I really appreciate when you guys do your part. We work hard on our part. We want to see everybody get great results. We want to see lives changed. And when we see people doing good things, we want to recognize it. All right, so for perfect adjustment attendance, these are for people who never, ever, ever miss an adjustment. And one of them is looking at me right now. Rolia, stand up. Everybody give Rolia a big round of applause. Perfect adjustment attendance. We're crowning them with a Medal of Honor here. And Giovanni, you're the next one. Everybody give Giovanni a big hand. Yes, sir. Tamara is coming around. Yeah. And then the next one is for 6 or more workshops. And, you know, somebody like Patricia, who is already kind of up on this information and she really has concern for her health, she sits here every single month and she just does not miss a workshop. And she keeps learning, she keeps growing, she keeps getting confirmation and gets affirmed in the decisions that she makes with her health. And I just really appreciate you for being here all the time. You're an encouragement to me too, so thank you so much. Come on and give that to her. This is our Core University Core 4 degree, 6 or more workshops. That's your, you haven't graduated yet, though. Can't stop coming. All right. So what I want to do is I want to have everybody stand up and just take a mental break. Turn and face the person on your right, and put your hands on their shoulders, and just rub their shoulders. Get the stress out. And then do a little karate chop. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so turn around and love your other neighbor. Massage.
You don't have to be gentle.
Okay, and then a karate chop. Yeah, wake him up, wake him up. Good job. All right, give yourself a round of applause. I have t-shirts here, so if you don't want to get hit in the head, heads up. Quick. Hey, good job. All right. Okay, so let's go to the second part 2 here. All right, so this is one thing, this is one stone that's going to kill a lot of birds. So the American Heart Association said on average, not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, and controlling all these other things can add 10 years to a person's lifespan. But what I highlighted right there, maintaining a healthy weight, can add 10 years to your lifespan just by itself. Because if you maintain a healthy weight, you're going to be able to control your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and cholesterol. So maintaining the healthy weight is probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that you can do to really attack inflammation, uric acid, and all the other causative factors for all these cardiometabolic diseases, right? Make sense? Yes. So I want to share with you this clip. Really interesting. Really interesting. It's going to show you one thing that causes a whole bunch of other things.
This animation reviews the major cardiovascular complications of obesity. The major cardiovascular complications of obesity include disturbances in metabolism, hypertension, cardiac arrhythmias, pulmonary hypertension, and atherosclerosis, especially that of the coronary circulation. Metabolic disturbances related to obesity fall into 3 major categories. These include dyslipidemia, insulin resistance, and glucose intolerance. There is a tight relationship between increasing body weight and increased blood pressure. Obesity is a risk factor for the development of hypertension. Obesity is associated with changes in the autonomic control of cardiac rhythm. There is a decrease in the activity of the sympathetic nervous system and a decrease in heart rate variability. The latter is a predisposing factor to sudden cardiac death. Furthermore, obesity increases the incidence of several cardiac arrhythmias, including atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter. Obesity increases the risk of developing pulmonary hypertension. This is thought to be related in part to an increase in right ventricular filling pressures and an increased load on the pulmonary vascular system. Obesity increases the risk of coronary atherosclerosis, non-fatal myocardial infarction, and sudden cardiac death. Okay, so everybody got that. Have one problem. Now, when you're looking at obesity, we're talking about this. We're talking about fat. Now, this is a hormonal system, basically. This is what drives inflammation. This is what messes up all your hormones. And this is really the culprit for what you're looking at right here. Dyslipidemia, fat in the blood, abnormal blood sugar metabolism, and then weight gain. So it's a vicious cycle. So if we could take anything from this, just understand it may not be easy, but it's simple. It may not be easy, but it is simple. Because if you lose 10 pounds, you double your chances of normalizing your blood pressure. Just 10 pounds. You lose 22 pounds, you reduce your risk of heart attack by what? 75%. This is cutting to the core of everything that we're here to learn about tonight. If you lose weight, you're lowering your cholesterol, you're lowering your triglycerides. These are all the things that your doctor's concerned about, that you're concerned about, that they have medications for. If you lose weight, you lower your A1C, and you reverse type 2 diabetes. You can reverse, it's 100% reversible type 2 diabetes. Did you know that? And it also restores thyroid function. Why? Because obesity and weight gain is a metabolic issue, which is a hormonal issue. And once you get the hormones sorted out, then everything else follows suit.
Hello, my name is Tim Kennedy. In the first 40 days of this program, I lost 35 pounds, exactly where I wanted to be. I got off my blood pressure medicine, I got off my cholesterol medicine, and I got off my heartburn medicine. And I feel wonderful. Thank you.
So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because there are some of you in the room here that don't know that we have a weight loss program. Now, I don't even like to call it a weight loss program. It's a metabolic correction plan. And what it does is it actually targets this. It targets abnormal fat. We're not talking about Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers. Anybody can lose 10 pounds. But when you lose weight, how many of you guys have ever lost weight before? You lost like 10 or 20 pounds. You lose the weight, right? Everything feels good, your pants are a little loose, and then you go back to eating like you were before, and then what happens? You gain it all back. The problem with losing weight is you're not correcting the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is the metabolism. If you don't correct the metabolism, it's only a matter of time till the weight goes back on, and then some. And so the program that we have, we've put over 2,300 people through this program. And what we're targeting, the weight loss is just a side effect. What we're targeting is the fat. I want you to feel that.
Gross.
How much do you think that weighs?
About 25 pounds.
How much do you think that weighs? 8 pounds? Carlos? Huh? He's a weightlifter. He's going to tell me he weighs a feather. Like a feather. 5 or 8 pounds? Okay. More than 8 pounds? Okay. So, you want to try it? So, you want to throw it? 10 pounds? Okay. So, everybody will give me a different answer because it's really hard to get a hold of that. It's dense, it's awkward, it's 5 pounds. It's 5 pounds, it is. But it's a model of 5 pounds of pure fat. Now, how much of this are you walking around with? Like if you, let's say you weigh 175 pounds and your body fat is 40%. What does that mean? If this is 5 pounds, you're walking around with 35 of these. Okay? So what if I told you you go on a diet and you lost 10 pounds, but you lost muscle and water and all this stayed on you? Would you be happy with that? No. And of course, you know, it would be short-lived. The weight goes back on and this gets compounded and you still have the same cause of the problem. Are you following me right now? So how do you know? Well, the place to start is with something called the body composition analysis. You take your shoes and socks off, you stand on this special scale, it puts a low-level electrical impulse through your body, and then there's an algorithm where your body can actually work into the program. This program, it shows you exactly what your body fat percentage is, your muscle mass, your water mass, all the percentages, your metabolic age, visceral fat, how much of this you have around your organs. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I'm in normal weight. The weight loss program, that is not for me. No. Watch what I'm going to show you here. Remember I talked about the metabolic disease that occurs in the liver from too much sugar? Remember I talked about skinny people that have fatty liver disease? This is how you tell. So you stand on this scale and it breaks everything down for you. The first thing it shows you is your body mass index. We know from the federal government, World Health Organization, when your BMI goes over 30, it's almost a certainty that that individual is going to get diabetes, cancer, or heart disease. It's almost a given. So that BMI must be under 30. If it's not, that's one of the main goals, again, to get out of harm's way for all of this. The next thing is your body fat percentage. Like I said, you know, if you lost, let's say you lost 20 pounds, and you didn't lose any of this, you wouldn't be happy. But what if you lost 20 pounds and it was 4 of these? Yeah, so that would be a little bit less luggage, that you'd be happy to keep the muscle, right, and lose the fat. And what goes along with this? The inflammation. What goes along with this? The triglycerides. What goes along with this? Normalizing your blood sugar and your A1C. What goes along with this? Your blood pressure, your cholesterol. When this goes out the window, all that stuff does also. So how do you know? You have to get the body composition analysis. Your body water. The water percentage's improvement is important because we know that when you're losing body fat, water percentage goes up. If you're not losing fat, that water is going to be going down. And you could be thinking to yourself, man, I drink water all the time. I have to be well hydrated. Well, that may or may not be the case. Because if there's a mineral imbalance, you could be drinking the water, right, Mike? And that water could be washing right through you if there's a mineral imbalance, because the cells don't have anything to absorb the water. So they're shrunken up like little raisins, where they should be plumped up like grapes. And that's how we know whether or not you're losing fat or losing muscle or water. And then the last thing is the visceral fat rating. Again, independent of whether you're overweight, obese, or not. If you think your weight is in normal range, this would be the telltale sign as to whether or not you should have a concern with any sort of metabolic disease, fat, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, everything that we're talking about tonight. If there's an imminent risk for that type of disease developing, even though you haven't been diagnosed with it yet. Is that important? So there's a good way to tell. And then the last thing is your metabolic age. How old are you? You don't have to tell me. But think about this. If you're 65 years old and your metabolic age is 90, what does that tell you? You're in trouble. You got a problem. Yeah, so it doesn't matter how much you exercise, how little you eat, your metabolism is creeping like a turtle. And it can't wait long enough to just start packing that fat back on. But when that metabolic age starts coming down at or near your chronological age or below, right? So Carlos, if you're 65 years old and your metabolic age is like 50, what does that tell you? You're fit like a 50-year-old. How many of you guys would like a metabolism like somebody 15 years younger than you? Say aye? Yeah, absolutely. Show me where to sign up. And I can tell you this is really one of the most important gauges on your dashboard so that you understand that once you get the metabolism corrected, you've gotten the hormones corrected, your body chemistry is corrected, and now you've got something substantial to help your body not only prevent disease, but also heal itself all these aspects of cardiovascular disease that we talked about. This one thing. And again, it's not the weight loss. Losing the weight is a nice little side benefit. But when you know that you're losing fat and you're correcting your metabolism, you're getting to the cause of all these degenerative aspects of not just heart disease, but everything else. All right? So this program that we're talking about, it may not be for everybody here, but some of you may benefit from it. So the only way to know is you have the tests done, the body composition analysis. Now normally the body composition analysis is $99. When you make the appointment because you're at the workshop, we give you a special discount. It's only $27. So that's to stand on the scale, to go through the report with Deborah, look at all the different aspects of your health on that body composition, and then see whether or not the program, if you're a good fit for the program. And now, if you are a good fit for the program, and you want to go through this, you're going to get a manual, you're going to get a journal, you're going to learn what to eat and what not to eat. And it's not just about the results in the short term. This is a 40-day program. But you're going to get the tools that will help you not only get the results now, but to maintain them for the rest of your life. And so there's accountability here, which means that follow up to the initial weigh-in, you're going to get weighed in again, and you're going to get weighed in again, and you're going to get weighed in again. And what you're going to see is a bar graph of all these metrics moving in the right direction. And if you're following this program and not cheating, right? Cheating doesn't work. But if you're doing it the way you're supposed to do it, you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's, we have a guarantee. We guarantee that if you don't lose at least 15 pounds, we put you through a second program at our expense. Now, normally, women will lose 15, 20 pounds. Guys will lose 20, 25, sometimes 30 pounds. Drew, what are you up to right now?
30.
Drew's up to 30 pounds. Yes. Year to date, he's lost 50. Everybody give him a round of applause. Yes. So, have you noticed all these things improving?
Yeah, the one thing that happened, I noticed going back to looking at the charts, is the week that I had reduced my water intake.
Yes.
The fat level went through this roof.
Yeah.
The following week, I increased the water intake.
Yes.
And it was almost back down to normal level.
So if you didn't hear what he said the water and the fat are inversely proportional. And the weeks that he didn't address his hydration properly and the minerals, his fat percentage went up. So we have control over this. I mean, these are dials that we dial it in very specifically to make sure that we're targeting the abnormal fat only. So everything's included in the program. You get the supplements, you get the food plan, you get the follow-up weigh-ins, and again, there's a guarantee. You're not just going to lose 15 pounds. You're going to lose 15 pounds of fat, and you're going to see the muscle mass, the water mass, and your metabolic age all change. And most importantly, if you have all these other issues with your heart, like your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your blood sugar, you're going to notice all that change as well. And that's the goal, isn't it?
Hi, my name is Carol Plevin, and I've been on the program for a little over 40 days, and I've lost 31 pounds, and I feel wonderful, without a doubt. Medicines, I've had to lessen on my cholesterol medication, and I just feel great, full of energy, and can't complain about anything. I'm ready for the next thing in life.
Okay. So if you're interested, talk to Deborah, or tomorrow they can set you up for an appointment. The $27 for the weigh-in. If you do the program and it's a result of you making the appointment from the event, there's a $100 discount on the program. And that's not just for those of you who've never done this before. That's for anybody who's already done it in the past and they want to do another round. It's open for everybody, okay? So take advantage of it. If it's something that you need, it's highly effective, it works, and it hits the bullseye for everything we're talking about and for every reason why everybody's here tonight, right? All right. And it doesn't matter if you're overweight or not. There's a lot you can get from that body composition analysis. So back to this. Look at that artery on the right side. You see how it's clogged up with all fat in there? Is that what causes the cholesterol? Is that what causes, does cholesterol cause the clogging of the arteries? Is that what it is? No. That's just the effect. So the cholesterol oxidizes when sugar molecules come in contact with them. They attach to the cholesterol, they physically deform it, there's oxidation, there's inflammation, and then you have elevated uric acid. And by the way, I don't know if anybody has heard of nitric oxide. You ever see people who take out nitric oxide for a heart condition? What does it do? It opens up the blood vessels. Guess what uric acid does to nitric oxide? It inhibits your body's ability to produce nitric oxide. And that's one of the major reasons why you get high blood pressure. Did you know that? Very interesting, isn't it? So getting control over that uric acid is really important if that is a factor. But getting to the cause here, looking at the foods, the nutrition, we really need to look at the sugars. We need to look at the labels. If you look at a label and it says 26 grams of sugar, what are you thinking? Here comes trouble. And then really you should be thinking, okay, well, what kind of sugars are there? And you got to look a little deeper, read the label below, and what do you see? High fructose corn syrup, corn syrup. And what are you thinking? Well, I'm increasing the leading predictor, which is more significant than inflammation, which actually stokes and amplifies inflammation and really will, trigger every other degenerative disease. High fructose corn syrup, which you would be least suspecting to be in your tomato sauce or your ketchup or your fruit bars. We know it's in the high fructose corns, the drinks, the soft drinks, but also you have to be careful with the artificial sweeteners. Like what's in Diet Coke, you can't fool your brain and you can't fool your liver. It has the same effect as regular sugar or fructose. Even the diet sodas, they're even worse than the high fructose corn syrup. So these are all the things that we have to reduce and eliminate. Here's another myth buster. So don't eat cholesterol, or don't eat foods with high cholesterol. Avoid the fatty foods, because they told us back in 1984 that foods that are high in cholesterol will raise your cholesterol. Remember that? Avoid foods that are high in cholesterol, like eggs and saturated fat, like bacon, because that's what causes heart disease. Well, nothing could have been further from the truth. And then they reversed it. Your Time magazine, 15 years later. Now the good news. These are actual Time magazine covers. on how times change. So we know today that saturated fat, many of your doctors may not agree with this, but this is true. It's already been published in many journals. We know this, that saturated fat is not the cause of heart disease. In many cases, saturated fat can actually prevent heart disease. So there was 340,000 people followed in this study that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. They showed that intake of saturated fat was what? Not associated with an increased risk of coronary artery disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. The actual risk for heart disease was 19% lower in the group consuming the what? The highest amount, yeah. So go ahead and have your steak and your vegetables. Not your steak and a baked potato, not your steak and bread, your steak and what? And veggies, yeah. 51% of the fat is monounsaturated, which is the same as olive oil or an avocado. That's half the fat in a steak. Hello? Beverly, did you get that? Yeah. This is good stuff, right? So saturated fat constitutes 45% of the total fat, but a third of that is stearic acid, which increases HDL, right? Increases the good cholesterol, has no effect on the bad cholesterol. Now, I'm not suggesting you should eat red meat every day. In fact, if you eat red meat more than 3 times a week, you're increasing your risk of high uric acid. If you do eat red meat, eat it more sparingly, and it should be what? Grass-fed. Yeah, look at your sources. So these are the things that we have to look for: the hydrogenated oils, the rancid vegetable oils, the trans fats, breads, pasta, rice, cereal, potatoes. All these cause an insulin response. When insulin goes up, the hormone for storing it goes up, which is fat storing. Your body's going to store fat. It's going to create triglycerides, fat in the bloodstream, fat around your waist. So you got it from that end, but then if you have the fructose with the juices, high fructose corn syrup, then you have it on the fructose end, then you have it on the liver end, which is the same type of thing. So what'd you learn tonight? What's really important to get a hold of? The what? The sugar, right? Now, again, when we said the healthy fruits are not the culprit here, but it's the quantity and the quality, of course, right? So if you want to go from that closed off artery to a healthy open artery, you have to transition from the left side to the right with your nutrition. And this is more like a paleo diet where we're eating good fats, we're eating proteins, we're eating vegetables, low sugar fruits, healthy nuts, good healthy fats. You guys have seen that. You're all familiar with that. What do you not see in that picture on the right side that you see on the left? All the sugars, all the carbs. So, let's get realistic here for a minute. It's not like you can never eat this stuff, but I would say the majority of the week, if you have problems with controlling your weight, your energy, your mental clarity, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, for the majority of the week, Veronica, right? We should be watching this and making sure that we're staying away from that stuff. You could do fine on just proteins, low sugar fruits, and vegetables all week long. And then maybe one day have a cheat day, right, Maxine? You like the cheat days. I like my cheat days. So I love my piece of pizza or a stromboli. I'll do it. I'll go to, we go to La Bamba. Friday. If we go Fridays, Carlos knows Friday's my cheat day. We get the rice and beans, and I'll make sure I have a cup of coffee with it, because otherwise my eyelids start getting heavy. I'm not used to that. But these are, this is what we call moderation, but we tend to, start to blur our edges. Well, you're not supposed to do all this stuff, and you start doing good for a couple days, and then one day, you have a little rice. And then 2 days, and then the next day you don't, but another day later, you get the rice again. And what you're doing is you're not allowing the hormonal system and the body chemistry to regain control and normalize. You do it for a whole week, and you've stabilized your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your body chemistry. But if you keep hitting it like every other day and you're not consistent, you're not going to get the same results, right or right? So it's not the smartest person in the room who's going to see the best results. It's the most consistent person. And we know who we are. And it's just, we're all a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. Just do your best, put one foot in front of the other. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Very good, yeah. So Here's a couple of quick tips, tricks. You can use the Complete Clean in the morning to help keep your blood sugar down, keep you in fat burning. It's a protein shake. It's got all your antioxidants, your vitamins in it. It's got green tea, which helps keep your metabolism cooking, keep you in fat burning. N-acetylcysteine, which is a low-level detox for phase 2 liver detox. It's got turmeric, which is an anti-inflammatory in it. It's got quercetin in it, which is one of the main supplements that people take to lower uric acid. So every time we have a workshop, I'm just going to throw this out because it covers everything all the time. There's not one workshop that we do that helps you with your health that I'm going to point to this and say, it's the breakfast of champions. You can make smoothies with it. You can mix it up with almond milk or coconut milk. If you haven't tried it yet, you should try it at least once. And I mean, it's a great breakfast. It saves you time. It saves you money. And this is one of the recommendations to help you get things under control. These are the supplements that you got in your handout there. The Ultraplex Cardio is what has the L-arginine in it, which is the precursor for your body to make a nitric oxide, which uric acid strips out, which uric acid inhibits. So if you got any kind of heart condition or you want to be proactive with that, this is one of those supplements that actually helps the smooth muscle in the walls of your cardiovascular system to constrict and open up, which can help with your blood pressure and your overall cardiovascular circulation. Another supplement is the CoQ10, the ubiquinol, which is the preferred type of CoQ10, which is absorbed better and better utilized by your body, especially if you're taking a statin drug. And this helps with energy for every cell, but if you're on a statin medication, it's an absolute must because we know that statins strip the CoQ10 out of the cells. And then Ultraplex EPA is the fish oil capsules. You were here last month for the brain workshop, and what did we say the fish oil capsules do? Helps prevent what? Alzheimer's. It helps prevent depression, counteracts inflammation, it's cardioprotective. It helps prevent blood clots, triglycerides. It helps prevent arrhythmia. It lowers your blood pressure, and it lowers uric acid. Pretty good stuff, huh? Bang for the buck. Ultraplex Vitamin D. Everybody should be taking a vitamin D supplement. At least 5,000 international units. Supports bone and dental health. Wards off mental decline. Supports your blood sugar, your immune system, and heart disease. So that's why I have these in there. For people who are looking for supplements to strengthen them at that level. Only at the workshops do we give a discount, 15% for everything that we mentioned, anything that has an Ultraplex label. And that's tonight only. So it's the supplements are they're limited supplies. They have what they have there for those of you who need that. Just ask them before you leave. All right. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is your autonomic nervous system. Because if you remember from the video there, they talked about sudden cardiac death. Raise your hand if you know what sudden cardiac death is. Sudden cardiac death is when your heart stops suddenly, without notice, without seemingly any reason. But what did they show being overweight does? It affects the autonomic nerve system, that part of the heart that's responsible for sympathetic activity. So when there's a decrease in the sympathetic activity, then you're at risk for sudden cardiac death. But there's two parts of your nervous system. One part that's sympathetic is what speeds up everything. When you're under a lot of stress, that's going to be the dominant part of your nervous system, fight or flight. And that's where most heart attacks happen, myocardial infarctions, sympathetic dominant, 75% of the time. Most people are in the fight or flight mode from all the stress. What chiropractic adjustments do is they stimulate the other part, the parasympathetic part. That's why after an adjustment you feel relaxed, you sleep better, you have more energy. And what happens is there's an effect where it creates a balancing type of effect on your autonomic nervous system. And that in turn has an effect on your blood pressure and your sleep and how your brain works. And that's the connection that I want to make with you here. By the way, that's why we do heart rate variability. For those of you who are under care, when we regularly check you for progress exams, why do we do heart rate variability if we're taking care of your spine? Because it's directly connected to your what? Your nervous system. So, now I'm a chiropractor. You may think I'm a back doctor, but really, chiropractic has its roots in neurology. Everything that we're doing to move your spine in a better position is for the sole purpose of removing interference from your nervous system. And if your nervous system's healthier, what else gets healthy? Everything. Can you say everything? Yes, everything. So that's why we look at heart rate variability. So last thing I want to show you here.
High blood pressure, it affects millions of people. In fact, 1 out of every 3 Americans. And if left untreated, it can be deadly. Most people take medication to control it. But as Kate Merrill shows us, some patients have found a simple way to keep their numbers down without drugs.
The mad dash to get the kids to school. The crazy commute, and especially work. It's enough to raise anyone's blood pressure.
We work on deadlines, and with all the law changes, which keeps me in business, but keeps us also pretty stressed out.
Soon, that pressure from running his Cambridge accounting firm began to take a toll on Adrian Kaspar. He was forced to go on medication to control his blood pressure.
I believe in not taking medications, but blood pressure you don't fool around with it.
I just have you sit right here.
That's why he came here to Dr. Peter Martoni, a Linfield chiropractor, who's using a new adjustment in the neck to help bring down blood pressure.
Now, if a bone is out of alignment and putting pressure on a nerve, it interferes with the ability for the heart to function correctly.
In about 2 or 3 weeks, my blood pressure was normal.
So there are studies that support this, and they've been published in the Journal of Hypertension. Adjustments, especially at the upper cervical area, have the effect of stimulating the parasympathetic. And that's why the blood pressure came down in this man. And that's what has been published. The effect that it has on your nervous system. Not that the adjustment is a treatment for high blood pressure. Does everybody understand that? But what a chiropractic adjustment does, it's like hitting the reset button on your computer. It refreshes and revives the strength of your nervous system. So it reboots your brain's ability to comprehend and control all functions in your entire body. And what does that do? It gives you an edge in terms of overall health with everything. So that's what I wanted to show you, because we're talking about heart health, and I've had lots of people come to me who eat good and exercise, yet they were on medication for high blood pressure. And I shared with you guys a testimonial, and if you could go on the Google reviews, you'll read about the guy who came here from Ohio, and his back was hurting a little bit, and I started adjusting him, but I was adjusting his neck too, and he got off his blood pressure medication. He hated being on his blood pressure medication because of the side effects. And he got off his blood pressure medication within a few weeks. I wasn't treating it. All I did was remove the interference from what was causing his high blood pressure. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's really, that's the most important way that you see chiropractic, that you use chiropractic. It's not a treatment, but you use it the way it was intended. The first chiropractic patient didn't have back pain. He was deaf. He had his hearing restored. Did you know that? Yeah. And so every time you get an adjustment, you're having an effect on your health, which is like money in the bank. It's like regular deposits. For those of you who are under maintenance care, every adjustment makes your nervous system and your body stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So when something happens, like whether it's COVID or you get this or that, or you have a fall, or you get sick or flu, you're going to bounce back a lot faster than most people will. And you guys have seen that. So I want to encourage you to stay the course. If you are not a patient in my office and you don't have a chiropractor and you want to learn more about this connection, your spine is like a circuit breaker. And if the bones are out of alignment, you wouldn't necessarily feel it, but it could be impinging on and affecting nerves that feed off to important areas in your spine. And it can cause everything from headaches to high blood pressure, dizziness, sinus trouble, breathing problems, shortness of breath, digestive issues, sciatica, you name it. And most people just take different medications and go to different doctors, never getting the cause of it corrected. And somebody comes to my office, I'll sit down, I'll do a consultation with them, I'll do an exam. I'm looking for the cause. If I have to take x-rays, I'm looking for the cause. If I'm doing thermography, I'm looking for the cause. And if we correct the cause, what happens? You remove the interference, and the power that made the body heals the body. Doesn't that sound like it makes sense? Okay. So if you're not a patient of mine and you'd like to have this done, you haven't had your spine checked anytime recently, just ask them at the front desk. They'll give you a friends and family coupon. Normally it's $350, $400 for that initial exam. If you get the friends and family coupon, it's only $97. That's for the consult, the exam, It even includes the x-rays, and we rarely include the x-rays in this. And then the time that we go over the report of all of that. So ask them for that friends and family coupon up front if you're interested in that. And that's not just for those of you who are here, but if you have people that you know, love, and care about, and you want to try to get them help and get them in here, ask them, and they'll try to help you with that as well. So, all right, let's make sure that you get scheduled for next month's workshop. The Heart Smart Nutrition supplements, get them while you can. They're limited quantities. If you want a body composition analysis, or you want to get your uric acid tested or anything like that, ask them up front. If you're a guest and you need a health pass, ask them to do all that for you up front. Thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. I love and appreciate you. God bless.